Hey, everyone. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Eric. I'm Eric Liu. I'm one of the co-founders at WeCloudData. And tonight we have this presentation about one program we run at WeCloudData is Business Intelligence Bootcamp. We will have two cohorts starting May 22nd, and that's the full time. And the other one will start July 23rd. That's a part-time program. And I will explain a little after. You can actually start the program anytime you want, but you start by watching the previous cohort recording, and then you can have a head start. You can get yourself warmed up before the live lesson starts. That's always a good idea. So without further ado, and if you have any questions, please use chat to text me the question, and I will pay attention to chat, and I will try to answer your question as we move forward. Okay, a little bit about myself, and this is me, and this is my career path. And looking back, my career path is not a straight line, and it's not even a smooth line. And as you can tell, I have done many things in the last 25 years of my career. I have changed job more than once. I have changed career more than once. I study EE, electrical and electronic engineering in school. And I work as an engineer at Siemens. And then I moved to banking. It's completely different industry. So I work as a loan officer, and I work my way up to become a senior manager before I moved to Canada in year 2000. And then I went back to AMD, and that's manufacturing again, and I work as an accountant. And then I found my way back to banking. I work as a business analyst and then data analyst. And then I moved to non-bank financial institutions, that's GE Money, and I did predictive modeling, and now we call it machine learning. And I joined Scotiabank in year 2007. And I worked as a senior manager all the way up to senior director. And then I quit banking altogether. I joined a fintech firm and became its chief risk officer for a while. And then Shawab, our CEO at WeCloudData, called me, and I joined WeCloudData as a co-founder, and this is where I enjoy the most, training data talents and help people find data jobs. And looking back, I realized one thing. It's completely normal if you change lanes. It's just like driving on the highway, and changing lane is always a good idea, because you can go faster, and you can leave the sunk cost behind you, and it's a good opportunity for you to reinvent yourself and become relevant again, so you can stay in the game. So a little bit about WeCloudData. At WeCloudData, quality is above everything. So we place high emphasis in learning experience, and we help students learn and improve. There are several websites that you can check it out. They are authorities, quote unquote, authorities about bootcamp training. So you can see we were rated very favorably by multiple sources, such as SwitchUp, Course Compare, and Career Karma. And data science program was created by our CEO, Shawa, and it was highly rated in year 2020, 21, and 22. For Course Compare, you can find the latest rating in year 2023. And our data analytic program was also rated one of the best program on the market. And we run multiple programs in the data space, including business intelligence, and that's the topic for tonight. And data science is the earliest program, it's the most successful program. Data engineering is another one. And nowadays, more and more organizations, they need talents to build plumbing, to build the infrastructure for the data layer. Machine learning engineering is also very, very popular. And now everybody is talking about ChatGPT, how AI is changing the way we work and live. And DevOps is also very, very popular. It's development and operations combined. Just so you know, we're looking to break into software engineering as well. So it shouldn't take that long. Probably sometime this year, we will launch our first software engineering bootcamp as well. So WeCloudData is growing, and we are getting a lot of publicity, and including CIO. So CIO has ranked WeCloudData one of the top 15 data science bootcamps in the world, and they recommended 15, and we were actually in the first place. And we used to run meetup events this way. Nowadays everything goes online, and it has the benefits, and people can attend the events from the comfort at home. So today, I'm going to talk about something called imposter syndrome. I want you to just take a quick read of this. And this is so true. I have talked to many, many people. I have showed them, some of the winning resumes that will for sure get people interviews. So this is often what I heard. I know this kind of experience can get me an interview, and I really, really want to write these bullet points on my resume, but I have never done it. I have never done work like this. I have never done a real world project like this. So I don't feel good about, putting things that I haven't done on the resume. And if I go to an interview like this, I feel like a fraud, So this is a very typical problem that you find in new grad or recent graduate from school. They literally has zero experience. And of course, they know very little about the real world and the real working environment. And the same is true with a career switcher, because the past 5-10 years experience becomes less relevant. And you need to convince the hiring manager that you are familiar with the data and data tools, and you have done similar work in the past. So how can we overcome this? I'm going to come back here and I'll look at these bullets one more time. But now, if you read them, most people have no feeling with these because they have not done it. And that's also the reason why so many people have a lot of self-doubt. They doubt their ability, they doubt their skills, can live up to the expectations. So I'm going to show you the next slide. And this is almost a cure of the imposter syndrome. And it's called role-based training. And it's very different from school and the program you find in school, because role-based training is very, very focused. So for instance, in BI program, we teach 5 data tools, but we don't teach everything about any tool. We teach only 20%. We teach only the 20% that's needed to perform a role. So that's called a role-based training. And skill-based training is very, very hard. For data tool like Excel, it's impossible that you learn everything about Excel. And you just know that. An accountant uses Excel very differently from a data analyst, right? That's because of the role. So in any role, you can just learn enough, and then just 20% of the essential features that you should be able to use to handle 80% of the most typical situations. And we need to know those contexts. So role-based training is what we adopt at WeCloudData. We simulate the work and work environment. I mean, that includes the work and the relationship that you have with people around you. And we learn the skills in context. And with the skills, we produce industry-grade, professional quality work samples. And we put them together, and we have a portfolio. And we use the portfolio to showcase and the employable skills, and we use them to convince the employer, the hiring manager, that we know the job, and we know what it takes, and we know the challenges, and we know how to overcome the challenges. So with those bullet points we put on the resume, we'll be able to get interviews. And with the actual context we learn from doing the actual work, we will be able to talk about the work during the interviews and convince the hiring manager that we have the capability and we will succeed on the job, so we can pass the interview. So I wish I can use this simple example about email campaign. So you already see this little animation, but I'm going to switch to, let me go to my IDE, MySQL. All right, so I hope everybody can see my screen still. And this is a very simple example I create just for this presentation, but the actual project is, of course, a lot more complicated. But this is good enough just for you to understand the context, so you understand the role and what it takes to perform the role. Give you a little bit of context, and this is about one company that we should all know about. It's the Global and Mail. So, years ago, it was a newspaper, and now it's a media company, and it has gone digital. So if you look at the business model, it's subscription-based, and the subscribers, you can subscribe to, different type. And if you pay monthly, it's going to be a little more than if you pay annually. And you can subscribe to just the digital version of the newspaper, or you can you can be old school, you can subscribe to print. And for print, you can subscribe to every day, or you can subscribe to only the weekend. And some people want both digital and print, and that's okay too. But of course, it's a different plan and for different price. So with that context, let's go down to the design. And the context is, number one, you are an analyst and you work with marketers and engineers. So marketers are from the marketing department, and they're the creative people, right? And the engineers, they are, from the IT department, and they have, control of all the applications such as CRM or the email applications such as MailChimp, So you work with both marketers and engineers to design and execute the email campaigns. And the objective is to get the traffic, is to grow leads and then convert the leads into subscribers. So you grow leads and convert the leads into sales, all right? And you, as a data analyst, you actually cover the entire process end to end, all the way from list generation. And in a moment, you understand what list generation entails. And then to campaign execution, you will need to work with IT to execute a campaign using MailChimp. And after the campaign, and you will get the data about the outcome, the result. And then it's also your responsibility to measure the success, the performance of the campaign. And the first step, list generation, you will need to generate a targeted email list based on business and compliance considerations. So the business rules, and probably, you have some sort of machine learning model that will tell you who are the right people to target and who will most likely respond to this campaign and subscribe to your service. And there's also compliance laws and regulations, such as some of you probably know, DNCL, do not call list. So this applies to phone and also email. So if people put their phone or email on the do not call list in Canada, and it's against the law if you still call them and still email them. So we need to be careful with when companies they tiptoe, they navigate around all these laws and regulations and make sure we're compliant and we don't break the law. And this is Canadian anti-spam legislation. And if people opt out of your campaign, or if people subsequently unsubscribe, to your email, and then you should not, and you cannot email them again. So all this work will need to be done. It's inclusions and exclusions, basically, and you will have to apply all the rules, and you will need to, delete those emails from the list, so you have the proper list that you can give to IT to execute the campaign. And number 4, you will need to segment the email list based on, different characteristics, including demographic data and behavioral data and preferences data. So, for instance, if you target a population, you might use age, gender, occupation, and education, and maybe industry, to segment 100,000 people into, let's say, 3 different segments. And then you target different offer and different product and service to different segments. Of course, for different segments, you will need to work with the marketer. They have complete different content. So this kind of email become very personalized. So the content is right for the segment we target. Some of you probably have heard of A/B testing. So you just have to continuously test and learn and improve the campaign performance. And you don't know until you test it. So usually for one segment, and you can separate the segment randomly into control and test group. In a moment, I will show you how you can use the seed function. So you can sow a seed, and you can divide the segment into two groups randomly. By random, I mean if you run distribution by all those characteristics: age, gender, occupation, education, the distribution look exactly the same, control versus test group. And once you did that, then you can use different email creative, and that's from marketing. For instance, you have A email creative and B email creative, and they're different in terms of subject and body and call to action. CTA is call to action. So if you apply different creative and then you measure the results, holding everything else constant, the same, and if, let's say, the open rate is higher in test group with the B creative, and you can determine, with confidence that the B creative is actually better. The B creative actually contribute to the higher open rate or click rate. So the next time you will use B creative, you will just trash A creative, and then B become the champion, and then you will come up with another creative to challenge the champion again. Okay, so this test and learn will never end, and that's how you continuously improve the performance of the campaign. I know, when I talk about all this, it sounds very abstract, but I just want to give you a little bit of hint before we go into the details. So number 7, after the campaign, you will need to define the KPIs, and you can calculate the open rate, click rate, and conversion rate to measure email campaign performance. So you can improve the return on investment and reduce the cost of acquisition. All right, so that's enough. So let's just go down and let's go through the code real quick. So for instance, like anything you do within the IDE MySQL Workbench, you will first need to create a database. So you run this, and then you create a database right here. So this is the global mail database, and it's empty. It doesn't have any table. So let's create the first table. So this is the email table. So this is basically your email list, and with the email ID, the actual email, and the email status, and the consent status. So the email status check if the email is valid or invalid. And there are certain things you can check to make sure the email is actually valid. And if it's invalid, and then we don't bother. We should try and find the right email before we send any email to this address. And consent status, if people opt out of your email campaign, and then this should show opt out. Otherwise, it's opt in, right? So any company, and if you go on their website, and usually they will try to get your contact information, email is probably one of the most important. And if you check the box that you agree to receive the marketing and promotional content, and then the consent status would be opt-in, right? And you could always opt out later, by clicking on the unsubscribe button. And it's by law. Every promotional email should include an option for the recipient to opt out by clicking the unsubscribe button. So this is the first table. Did I run? Oh, yeah. So the second table is the campaign table. And this is simple. You have the ID of the campaign and the actual description of the campaign. Did you notice that we put the primary key here and the primary key over here? So this is the campaign ID and this is the email ID, right? All right, so let's run this. And let's also run to create the activity table. So you notice that the activity is at a very granular level, and it has its own ID and then which campaign and for which email, and then the date of the activity and the activity itself. And you notice that the ID in activity table is the primary key, and then the campaign ID is the foreign key. So that's in reference to the ID in campaign table. And this email ID in the activity table is the foreign key, and that's in reference to the ID in the email table. So once I run this, I want to show you something. Within MySQL Workbench, you could go to, even though right now, if I click this, you see all three tables, but they're all empty, right? But with the empty table, you can still see the relationship by clicking database and go to reverse engineer. And you can just click next, next again, and you click this database and click next, next, execute, next, finish. All right, so I think it's down here somewhere. So you notice that we have two tables over here. This is the email list, and this is the campaigns we run. And of course, they all, connect to the activity table. So if you look at this relationship, it's from the primary key to the foreign key, and this one is from the primary key to the foreign key. So this is the ERD. It's always important that you create the proper data model before you do anything in SQL. So let's come back here. So with some data, you always need some sample data to really understand the business. I tell you, this is pretty easy to understand. So let's look at the email. These are all fake emails, and you probably noticed. So we have 6 email addresses, and it's A, B, C, D, E, F. So this Alice, Bob, Carol, Dave, Eve, Frank, right? And with different email providers, and they look legit, but they're not real. You notice the email status, they're all valid, and opt-in, right? So this is pretty simple and easy. Okay, do this. And look at this one. So this is for you to understand the global email business. So 3 campaigns, and the first campaign is called digital, right? And the subject of the email says, Globe to go at $1.99 per week. So this looks like it's just the digital version. It's Globe to go, and it's cheap. It's $2 a week, and that's how much a year. 50. We have total 54 weeks, so that's a little over $100. And for a different segment, it's digital and print Saturday. So this is Global to Go Saturday home delivery, and this is more expensive. So it's $5 expensive, $6.99 per week. So this is digital print Monday through Saturday, So it's going to go Monday through Saturday, home delivery at $10.99 per week. So 3 products and target 3 different segments. That's very, very clear, right? That becomes clear to you, I hope. All right, so let's run this. Did we run this? Yeah. The last one. So this is, we're going to spend a bit time over here. So I want you to look at, let's run this. Let's look at the actual table. It's easier that way. Let's run this. And if you refresh the schema, and let's go to the activity table. Let's take a look. All right, so let's look at the whole table. We have 19 records. So if you look at the activity ID, it's 1 all the way to 19. So remember, we have designed 3 campaigns, 1 and 2 and 3. And the first campaign, we target 2 people, 2 emails. So you see email ID 1 and 2. So for email ID 1, you see 4 events or activities. The email was sent on January the 1st, 2023. So it's sent. And there are 2 possibilities. The email was delivered, or the email was not delivered, or you could say the email bounced. Okay, so it was delivered, and it was sent and delivered on the same day, and the recipient didn't open the email until the next day. So it was opened January the 2nd, and he also clicked a URL in the body of the email, and that's the call to action. So very likely, we click the subscribe button, and this, you can define the conversion rate as number of clicks, or maybe number of purchase, depending on the business and the situation. So if you look at the second email, it was sent and it bounced. So knowing this, you probably need to flag the email as invalid, right? So what about the second campaign? We sent to 2 people as well. So 3 and 4. So if you look at 3, and we have 4 activities, the email was sent and delivered on February the 1st, and it was open the February the 3rd, and he didn't like it, and he chose to unsubscribe. So it's unsubscribed. Now let's look at email ID number 4. It was sent and delivered on February the 1st. It was opened on the same day, but that's it, nothing after. And then you can see this is a sequence of action, right? The third campaign, we also sent it to 2 people. So email ID 5 and 6. If you look at email ID 5, the email was sent on March the 1st and delivered on the same day, was opened on the next day, and it was also clicked on the next day. And this is another sale, right? The last email, it was sent and delivered, but nothing else. It didn't open, right? So I think this is enough for you to understand, why we have 3 tables and why we have, this activity table, just to capture what happened to every single, email that we sent to the prospect or the targeted audience. Any questions so far? If no question, let me just come down. So now we talk about the inclusions and exclusions. So this is list generation. How can we generate the list? If the population, has 6 people, should we include them all, or should we exclude some, right? Once again, we have business considerations, and we have the compliance consideration. The business consideration, we probably will use some machine learning model just to predict, the response rate or the likelihood that, the recipient will respond to this campaign. And we use that to select the emails. And then after that, you will need to exclude the emails based on a number of things. So for instance, so this is just one query you need to run. So you can see this is something we don't normally do. In fact, if you do this, I actually can run this, but usually you can't. That's because I go to edit in preference, and if I go to edit in preference, if I click SQL editor and go down, you see I uncheck the save updates. So usually this is checked, and then that is to protect the database. Not everybody should be allowed to delete things from the database, right? So you need to run this really, really carefully. But knowing that we don't have any email that's with the status invalid or consent status opt-out, if I run this, this shouldn't affect. So 0 rows are affected. So this is a really good one, and we use regular expression just to check if the email is valid. And those of you, you can actually check out. In fact, you can ask ChatGPT, how to validate an email to see if it's valid or invalid. And very likely ChatGPT will return this. So basically it will tell you, this is the beginning of the string, and this is the end of the string. And, anything before the ampersand, you could have uppercase A to Z, lowercase a to Z, or 0 to 9. And some special symbols like dot, underscore, percentage, and plus, minus. And then the ampersand, and then after that, you can use uppercase A to Z, lowercase a to Z, and 0 to 9, and dot and underscore. So this is the escape. So you can actually use this dot. And then after that, it's usually a .com or dot whatever, right? So you can only use uppercase A to Z or lowercase a to Z, but at least two, at least two letters, right? And that's it. So if I run this, this shouldn't affect because those 6 emails, they appear, valid. So this is just assuming you actually have a do not call list. And then if you run this select distinct email from do not call list, so this will give you a list that you should not be calling. So you can delete the emails if the email is found on the do not call list. So I can run this again. It gives me the error because we actually don't have a table for this, but you can understand where I'm coming from. So there anti-spam, Canadian anti-spam legislation will ask you to observe some resting rules. For instance, you cannot bombard the same person with frequent emails. So for instance, you can only contact the person if you didn't contact him in the last 30 days. So this is the resting rule, right? So number of days since the last contact has to be greater than 30. So you can do something like this. So I'm not going to run every single one, but by now I think you should understand, so I can just write a SQL query to perform the task of list generation. And of course, you will need to get the requirements from the business or from the compliance team to make sure you did everything right, by law, by regulation. And then this is important. Remember, I said you can plant a random seed to separate the population into control a test group. So I can run this because I have very small sample. So you can see that, everyone is assigned to a control group. But if I have big enough population, let's say 1,000 emails, you should see the distribution 80-20, right? Okay, so the last we pretend we get all the outcomes into the activity table, and then we can create a temporary table called stats. So if you run this, so this is successful. It's a temporary table, so you can actually do select start and from the temporary table is called stats, right? Right. So with that, if you run it, and you will see the performance measurement. So 3 campaigns, you see how many sends, how many delivers, how many opens, how many clicks, how many bounces, how many unsubscribes. So then you can calculate open rate, click rate, bounce rate, and unsubscribe rate. So if you want to find the top campaigns by opens, and then you notice that I have the nested query, and within the query I use window function just to sort and rank the campaigns by the number of opens in descending order, right? So then if I, put in the where condition num equal to 1, I will get the campaign with the maximum number of opens. So let's run this. So this tells me digital and print Saturday. So this one has the most open. You can check. So digital and print Saturday open. So this is 2, right? All right. So this is a very, very simple example. All right. We have a question from Hannah. What is rand? So this is a function. This will give you a random number between 0 and 1. So you can use that because it's random. You can use that to assign the row, every row, either to control group or task group. But over here, it tells you if this random number is less than 0.8, it goes to control group. If it's greater than 0.8, it goes to the task group. So if we have big enough population, we should have the number of emails go into control group, being 80% of the population, and the number of emails going to task group being 20% of the population. So this is something for you to remember. All right. So, okay, any questions so far? No? Okay. Let's go back here. So this is what I meant by role-based training. We spent how much time we spent on this? So we spent a bit of time just to explain, this role and this job. And by now, I think you have a fairly good idea, how to run, how to design and execute an email campaign. But of course, if you join the bootcamp, you will have very detailed, close to the real industry use case. So we can use that to simulate the work environment, so you can learn the skills in context, and then you can produce the professional work sample. You can build a project portfolio to demonstrate, that you have the hireable, employable skills. So that way you can get interviewed and you can pass the interview. All right. So this is what I meant by expertise beat experience. For both new grads and career switchers, I want you to not worry too much about the lack of experience, because experience is not a good measure of your success. Expertise is. Expertise by definition is skill acquired from actual practicing, regardless the number of years, right? And experience is nothing if it's irrelevant, right? Only when people don't have a good way to identify and recognize talents that will use the number of years, and that's just foolish. That's not the best, and everybody knows. And relevant expertise that you acquire in 3 months of bootcamp practicing with laser focus beat the 3 years of irrelevant experience. And that's definitely true. It's tried and proved, right? Doesn't matter if you're a new grad or if you're a career switcher, you join the bootcamp and we spend those 3 months, then you will do the real project, close to real project with laser focus. And that's enough for you to build a portfolio and convince the hiring manager. Okay, same role and many titles. You notice that I put not just business intelligence, I also put business analysis, data analysis, business intelligence, because these are the 3 steps of the same process. You may have different title, but you will go through 3 steps of this process. And business analysis just make sure you solve the right problem. You understand completely the business needs and requirements before you get busy. But once you know the right problem to solve, and then you will go around, go to IT to collect data from different source systems, and then you will perform ETL, extract, transform, and node to process the data, and then you make the data useful and ready for analysis and reporting. And most people stop here, and that's not right. And business intelligence is actually the highlight of this process. But of course, you will need to perform business analysis, data analysis before you do business intelligence. Otherwise, you will have a very hard time, trying to find the insight or trying to communicate the insight. So business intelligence, a lot of time, you use visual storytelling to communicate the insight, to show people, if you do this, this will be the outcome, and to measure the impact on the business outcome. And this is very interesting if you look at this bunch, and these are just the department names, the name of the departments in our organization. These are just the vertical functions within a typical organization, and these are the industries, right? So if you just put analysts after any function, and this is a job title, and which is true, you have marketing analysts working in marketing department, you have sales analysts working in sales department, and then product analysts, operations analysts, financial analysts, risk analysts, and people analysts. Am I right? That's just so true. And in the old time, you probably will have this decentralized model, and you will report to the head of marketing and sales. But now data becomes very, very important. And then you have all these analysts centralized into a big, big department, but yet you still support different functions. That's why the title. And then based on industries, you have CRM analysts, retail, digital policy analysts if you work for the government, investment analysts if you work in capital market, investment banking, and supply chain analysts. So never mind the title, but you all go through the same process all the way from business analysis to data analysis to business intelligence. Notice that you start with business and you end with business, because after all, data is to serve the business. And this is very typical of business intelligence role. And you are going wide, okay? You're developing a range. You're working horizontally, IT is your supplier, and the business team is your customer. So IT provide you access to data, and business needs data, and business give you the requirement, and you will come up with the solution in analysis, reporting, dashboarding in order to serve the business. Okay, are we good so far? Okay, and now we talk about money, right? I want you to know that BI professionals are fast trackers. I tell you why. Because the nature of business intelligence, we used to run queries so you get the data, but nobody can consume data. And then you organize data into tables, you summarize them, so you can have a small table, but then that's not good either. And then you will have to create charts and graphs to show people the trends, the patterns, the relationship, and that's not enough. And now we have dashboard, and everything is connected, and you can interact with the dashboard by pressing the buttons and applying the filters, and you can highlight certain things and everything else will move. So this kind of work is highly, highly visible. You know, it's visual storytelling, which is to your advantage, because if your work is visible, you know what? You're visible. And if you produce really good work, and the work will go to the managers and senior managers, directors and VPs, and all the way to the senior leadership team, and people will ask, who did this? Who produced this? And your name will come up. So with your work, if it's good work, it will help you connect to the people with power and with opportunity. So BI is just one best way for you to find a data job. And once you're in the organization, it is also a one best way for you to, you know, get promoted and make more money. So I want you to become a visible expert by joining the BI Bootcamp. And now let's just spend a minute to explain the different titles over here. You see BI analyst, BI consultant, BI developer, BI engineer. Okay, analyst and consultant, now this is probably junior and this is intermediate and senior, and they work more on the business side. Whereas developer and engineer, and this is maybe intermediate and this is senior. Whenever we say engineer, probably, you know, you work more on the tech side or on the IT side. So this involves a lot more the ETL process. Maybe your SQL code will become stored procedure. It's a scheduled job you run every day and make sure the report will get created and pushed to the desktop of the business user. So it's the kind of service you will need to support and maintain. And if there's anything, any issue, and you will need to address them, right? So, but like I said, you probably will go through all three steps of the process, from business analysis to data analysis to business intelligence. So it's the requirements from the business, and the product and service go back to business. And of course, you can take management roles and you can become a manager and director that way. Okay, any questions so far? We have questions from Sahana. Thank you, Sahana, for, all the good questions. In terms of area of work, and what is different between BI analyst and BI consultant, could you briefly explain? Like I said, and this probably just, this is for junior role, and this is for intermediate and senior role. And nowadays, I also see more and more contract BI roles open up. So you can work as freelancer and, you know, on short-term assignment, like 6 months to a year. Most of them, they incorporate their own business, and they send invoice to the client, and they are paid maybe $50 an hour or $80 an hour. So that's also a possibility. And the tools different for both, and the tools. So we're getting to the tools. So let me just show you. And so this is the bootcamp in a nutshell. So 5 data tools, including Excel, SQL, Python. So we practice 2 programming languages, and SQL for internal data, which is usually relational database. You use dimensional data modeling. And we also teach Python, so you can use it to scrape data from the internet. You can use API to get data directly from website. And so Python is the future, but nowadays, BI analysts, most of the time you get tested on SQL. So more often on SQL than Python. And we also teach you 2 visualization tools in Tableau and Power BI. Both of them are good in number 1 and number 2. And Salesforce is behind Tableau. Microsoft is behind Power BI, and both are huge. But in my opinion, Power BI is more powerful. But if you learn both and you cover more jobs, so we have 2 programming tools. So we have 2 data visualization tools, and Excel is quick and dirty. You still need to learn enough Excel to handle small data jobs, most of the time manually. If you want to automate the process, very likely you will need to automate the data flows all the way from servers, database to Power BI to maybe SQL Server first. So you need to run SQL job to complete the data management, data manipulation, and then you read just small amount of data into Power BI, and then create a data model, and then create DAX, create measure, and start visualizing. Okay. So 5 data tools and 8 industry-grade project, and then you use them to build a portfolio. So this is to help you to pass the coding test and also the case interview. And you have gone through 8 heavy-duty, industry-grade project. You will have no problem cracking the case interview from the hiring manager, from the employer. And we will drill you. You will have to go through, lots and lots of coding workshops, and the instructors will lead you to practice LeetCode SQL. So you will get very good at coding, so you can pass coding tests. Wait a minute. So we have a question from Michelle. Is the course Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday? It's Monday through Thursday, Michelle, and everybody else. So we have Friday as a study day. So we realized in the past it's a little too much intense. And so we have Friday, the Ask Me Anything. So the TA will still on Zoom, and you can ask the TA any questions. Even Monday through Thursday, we have 1 hour office hours, and once again, the TA is on Zoom, and the TA can answer your questions. So after this, we also provide you with the mentorship. The mentorship doesn't have to be 6 months. So because on average, our students will find jobs, within 6 months. And usually it's 3-4 months. And it's one-on-one. And what happened is we allocate a portion of your tuition, and we pay the successful alumni, our hired alumni, to help you with everything to get interview and pass interview. So with resume building, sometimes may help you with portfolio building as well, if the mentor provide that service. and job networking and referral just to get you more interview opportunities, and help you design the conversation in the interview. So that includes interview scripting and practicing. So this is about work, and this is about talking about the work. This is about getting super competitive. This is about getting super expressive. So you can explain jobs with confidence, and so you can pass the business and behavior interview. It's one cost, 7,500 Canadian with early bird discount. If I'm not mistaken, if you apply 2 months before the start date, you will enjoy 15% off. And not just 15%, because the next year we will issue the T2202A, so you can use that to get additional 15% tax rebate. So it's 30% off this number. Okay, question from Sahana again. Could you give some tip to overcome the lack of Canadian experience? This is a chicken and egg question, and we all have that. You know what? The portfolio project, and in a moment, I will also talk about real client project, because some of the new grads, and when they have zero experience and they want to do more after the bootcamp, they sign up for the real client project. So we have some additional costs just to cover that. And so you can accumulate Canadian experience that way, because our clients are either Canadian or American corporations, big and small. So our clients are either established big companies. The Global Mail is actually one of our clients. We also have clients from the US. And just recently, we have done a big project, building the entire data infrastructure, including data warehousing. And this year, we progress into phase 2. So we start building the BI solution for the company. It's the largest auction company of antique classic cars, vehicles, and it is changing the business model, going from the traditional on-site auction to online auction. So that's a big project. All right, the next one. So this is a very important page. So this is about context. How do you learn enough just to get a job, not do the job, but get a job? We simulate the role. How do you define a role? How do you define this chair? Oh, go back. It's really important for you to understand these roles and responsibilities and how you fit into this big picture. So your roles and responsibilities and the task the work you do, it is oftentimes the intersection of this vertical line and the horizontal line. The vertical line is the function. So depending on which function you support, could be marketing, could be sales, could be product, could be finance. But you're also part of this process. You're a link of this process. It's horizontal. So oftentimes you take the data from IT, you produce the reports and dashboard, and you deliver it to the business team, right? That's just one process, but it requires you to work cross-functionally. So it's important for you to understand the function and also the process in order to understand the role. And that's oftentimes not enough. You will need to understand the business, and even the competitive landscape within the industry. And most of us know the job description is very poorly written, and it's written out of context. And how can you understand the job by reading the description? And the only way for you to understand the role is to actually do the work. So this is how we create the business case, and that comes with data. And you will have to go through the entire process, and we mimic the way that you communicate with other teams to get the job done, right? So this is high level. So we teach you 5 data tools, and we also, give you enough context, in the business use case or project. Right? We showed only 5, but we actually have 8 for you to learn the skill. So we want to go through the 3 processes, and business analysis is the first step. And I think it's important for you to learn how to make money in this business and the core process and the key decisions that we make. And you also need to learn the hierarchy of work at a very high strategy level, and then the technical level and the ground floor operational level. So a lot of times we have goals, we have set goals and objectives, and you will need to translate those goals and objectives into KPIs or measures, because that's how you're going to measure the performance of the business, the success of the business. So this is oftentimes the first step, and it's the most important step. Otherwise, if you don't understand the problem and you spend the rest of the time working on the wrong problem, that's the biggest risk, because you're going nowhere, really, really fast. The second one is data analysis, and this is oftentimes, you apply the programming tools. So it's pre-processing. You collect data and you process data and you make data consumable. And there is the term called EDA, exploratory data analysis, and you learn how to generate summary statistics, and then you will be able to identify the data issues and how to treat them, right? And then the ETL process, extract, transform, and load. And once you clean up the data and transform the data, and you can connect the data into a data model, and that's ERD, entity relationship diagram. And you use the dimension table and fact table. You use primary key and foreign key, and you use them to create one-to-many relationship. The question is, what do you think about Snowflake? And I'm not an expert on Snowflake. I know it's SaaS, and I take it as the environment similar to other cloud environment like AWS, but I understand it's very flexible and it doesn't have to be relational database. So a lot of things you can do on the cloud, and it's a place you can store data and then you can do work. And just recently, some of our students may get job interviews in this area, and they will need to demonstrate, they feel comfortable working on the cloud. But BI analyst is not a data engineer, so you just need to get familiar with the environment, and you can use certain resources. You know how to store data. You can also how to connect the data to some other tools such as Power BI, and then get the visualization work done. So the third step is business intelligence. Here we said, in God we trust, but all others must bring data. So it's all about dimensions and measures and the trends and drivers, and you make conclusions and recommendations. You make people see how value is created. A lot of times we need to speak the business term. We need to mention, it's high revenue, it's lower cost, it's more efficiency, it's better quality. right? We need to speak that language because that's the only way that people will care about your work. Any questions so far? Okay. Just time check. So it's 1 hour 15. All right. So end of the day, when you start looking for work, you will have your resume, and most of our students and their resume got completely rewritten. So for instance, the skills will need to be completely rewritten. And when people look at this, when people read this resume, you look technical, quite technical, and well-rounded, all the way from business analysis to data analysis to business intelligence, right? So you know business, you know data, you know communication. And it's beautiful that you have done the 8 project, and you can choose to show. I always recommend you apply the 3+3 rule. So you elaborate on 3 project that you choose to position yourself in certain industry. And then you also mention 3 more projects, but high level, and sometimes just 1 line, just so people know the scope of your work. And they also know you are an expert and you have the expertise in, let's say, retail, or supply chain, or CRM, digital marketing, and email campaign, like the case I showed you before. And then some of you have had work experience, and now is a good time to rewrite that experience so you show people the continuity, and that's the creative part of it. Sometimes it's hard to make sense of the past experience, but I always believe, business intelligence jobs, all the business knowledge and even your understanding about the traditional industry and business model will help, because a lot of corporations are going through the digital transformation, and they need people who understand the past and the future and the traditional and the digital to make that transition, right? So if you're creative, and that's how you would position yourself to see, see, I'm already taking the lead, and I completely understand the challenges and frustrations that come with this digital transformation, and I can help you with that. For instance, a lot of times you can tell people, tell the organization, I can make your data work for you, right? So a resume is highly creative piece of work, but it's not enough. You make a statement about your resume, but you need to back it up. Our students need always have something to back it up. Some of our students, they actually have 2 pages resume. The resume itself is just 1 page, and the second page includes the portfolio sample. You don't show your code, but you should show your finished BI product. So in this case, you can show multiple projects, and this, trust me, will grab people's attention, and they will at least give you an opportunity to come to the interview and showcase what you have done. So I think this is a much better approach. Show and tell. Make a statement, and then ask for 3 minutes to do a demo of your of the project you feel most proud of. And of course, you practice a zillion times before that, and you will do a fine job, presenting yourself as a BI expert. Okay, question from Nayara. Is the school partner of GitHub program? Unfortunately, we're not. I know what you're asking for. Sometimes you can get free access to cloud, or maybe some service with a discount. We are a private college, and it's not included on their list. But depending on what you need, right? With WeCloudData, we actually have our own cloud environment. If you do project in class, we will help you with that. But most of the tools we use are open source, so they're all free. It shouldn't cost you a thing. All right, so we have this alumni mentorship support to really help you get ahead, and because the mentors have been there and done that, and they come from the place that you want to go, and they will give you the much needed insider information, and they will also provide the connections that you can leverage to get more interview opportunities. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but I want to show you a few things. One thing I want to emphasize is most of the people I talk to, they're technical enough, they're capable, but they have done a poor job, promoting themselves. So for instance, we all need to learn how to promote our work. I'm going to just use this as an example. This is just a very simple dashboard, one of our students built. And they practice many, many times how to present this. So they create this cover page, and they start with, this is the dashboard we built for an American company in the energy industry. So it's called Community Solar. And if you click this button, it will take you to this dashboard. It looks simple, but it's very, very functional. And in fact, I have created a tooltip just to show people how to use this dashboard. So if you look, you realize all the 5 buttons are clickable, and there are 5 KPIs you can use to reconfigure, the dashboard. And every single time you click a button, and the 3 visuals will show different KPI. But other than that, if you look at the design, it's minimal, and the color theme is very consistent. We just use orange, and it's very, very pleasant. On the left-hand side, you see all the slicers. So this shows you the 5 dimensions, in fact, 4 dimensions. So you see time, and you also see, so this is when, and this is who. So this is the customer, and this is the product, this is the what. So when, who, and what. And this is the where, the state. And project is the lower level where. So all 5 slicers you can use to filter, by time, by space, by product, by customer. On the right-hand side, you can choose different KPI to tell a story. So for instance, let's look at the business overall. If I click the button, bills issued, all right. So this is the energy business. Just like the way you pay for hydro bill, the number of bills represent the number of customers. So the company has 40,000 customers. And if you look at the number of customers over time, so all the way, wait a minute. So I need to change this. So this should be by months. All right. Look, so you need 3 months to see a trend. So from October to November to December, you can see that the number of customers are growing. So the business is growing, right? That's on an uptrend. But now, If you switch to the dollar amount, the billed amount we collected over time, it's interesting. Didn't you just say the business is growing? But the revenue, the billed amount is actually decreasing. But if you think about it, this is solar energy. Quite some states in the US, when it gets to November, December, it's wintertime. So you have less sunshine, you have shorter day-night. So that's just the nature of the business, and the business is seasonal. But if you look at the states, and it's all alphabets now, but if these are the real states, if you're curious, you want to find out, if I click California and Florida, because those states you have sunshine year round, and this trend will look very different. If you select New York, it's just like Toronto, and probably it will show this trend. But with that, let's go to the next level. If I look at commercial customers, so I can click this. I go back to bills issue again. So you see, oh, again, we have this problem. What happened? Oh, I think I just need to change it to months. Right. So you see bills issued. If you look at the bills issued by product, and you realize most of the customers, they choose PPA. So it's power purchase agreement, and you pay whatever rate and for the amount of energy you purchase. So it's interesting, commercial customers, most of them choose PPA, and they take the risk. If you check the billed amount per bill, you will understand why. Because for those people who choose PPA, this is, again, we need to fix it, sorry. Yeah, should be a customer type. So you realize the commercial customers who choose PPA, and they pay, on average, they pay a lot less compared to the commercial customers. Very few commercial customers who choose fixed monthly. So commercial customers, they have a team, they analyze the energy consumption and how much they pay. They choose the right product just to minimize the cost. But if you choose residential customers, the story is different. And once again, if you look at bills issued, you have more customers choose PPA, but you also have significant number of customers choose fixed monthly. So it doesn't matter if the rate is going up or down, or how much you use, you pay the same amount every single month. So you still see a significant number of residential customers choosing fixed monthly. Once again, if you click bill amount per bill, you notice that those who choose fixed monthly, they actually pay less, right? But you have many people, and they just want to have the peace of mind. And this is very similar to mortgage. Usually people say if you choose variable rate, you save money. But I think now is a very different story, because Bank of Canada has hiked the rate so many times, and those people who chose variable rate is paying a lot of money. And those people who were risk averse, who chose fixed rate, they're laughing now because they pay a lot less compared to the people who choose variable rate. So with this presentation, you tell the employer, I understand your business. It's a seasonal business. I also understand the importance of pricing strategy. I understand this well, and I will work with the product team to create the right product. And we will need to get creative on pricing so we can use our pricing strategy to influence the residential and commercial customers and to influence their behavior. And our objective is to optimize and maximize the revenue. So we collect more build amount, right, the revenue. So I just want to show you this example. Even though a simple dashboard like this, you will be able to convince people, you're good with design, you understand the business perfectly, and you're good with data. And I think they're sold, and they can't wait to get you on board and to hire you and to become part of their team. Any questions before we move on? Let me do another time check. So we have 30 minutes more. And let's come back to this slide. Let me switch this. Okay. Now, almost every data job, you will get a technical round, either technical interview or it could be a straightforward coding test. Sometimes you get a package, so you need to do a couple SQL query, and you also need to work on a business case with data. And I can tell you, most people on the market, they got scared by this technical screening test. And if you join the bootcamp, and you will have the skills to, to write the exam, to take the test. And truth be told, 90% of the time, people either don't have the courage to write the test, or they simply cannot pass it. So if you look at the bad news, any data job attracts 300 to 500 resumes, and you just have to find a way to stand out. And the skills that makes you stand out is very hard to learn by yourself. So our bootcamp is designed to train you head on, with the coding skills and also with the portfolio building. And the good news is, if you have the courage and if you have the skill to take that challenge, you will be able to reduce your competition by 90%. And what's more good news is, a lot of times we use the interviews test to train our people, and you already think the way that they want you to think. And if you do things, if you learn from the best, and if you do it, by repetition, you can build the muscle memory. And by muscle memory, I mean your body already knows what to do before your mind, right? So usually the technical screening test comes at short notice, and you will have to turn around, within 24 hours or 48 hours. It's impossible for you to do that without proper training. And I have seen many different situations, and people code in the Word document, and the SQL query just looks totally not readable, and it's full of typos and errors and bugs. It doesn't run, right? And our students are different. They always go through the same process, and they will create a database. They will do everything, within the IDE. They will create a database. They will reconstruct the problem. They will create the schema. They will create tables, and they will connect tables using primary and foreign key, and they will insert the values, and then they solve the problem. And not only that, the code is readable, is beautiful, is with style. For any job, probably you have more than one person who can do the task and who can get the right answer. But there is probably only one who can, do it with style, and you just, the way you solve the problem, the way you present your case is just impressive, right? Okay, some typical questions. And is data the same as IT? Data is completely different from IT. Data programming is completely different from application programming. So if I said that, I think you already see the difference. And developers, they code, they program to create an application, right? And you use coding to collect, process, and manipulate data before you can, find insight from the data and communicate the insight using visualization tool. So it's very, very different. You're not becoming a developer. However, nowadays you see the title like, BI developer, and that's only because you are working in the production environment, and something you develop will go into production and you will even need to support it. So then you assume the title developer, but it's very, very different from the software developer, okay? So I want you to know that, because some people got scared by this, right? Especially if you come from a business, finance, accounting, maybe economics background, humanity background. It's not that scary. In fact, you have different advantages. The next question is, what do I do all day? Just running queries and make reports? It's more than that. It's more than just that. Okay, one question from Nayara. Do you recommend some certification in finance for people that want to work as a finance data analyst in Canada? That's a good question, because in this title, you have both finance and data, right? So finance is a functional area. Can I tell you my story? When I moved to Canada in year 2000, I actually found my first job as an accountant, working for AMD. It used to be called ATI Technology and now part of AMD. So I actually signed up for the CGA certification. I did one subject and then I quit. That's just not for me. So to answer your question, you don't have to. You don't have to. As a finance data analyst, you will need to understand financial accounting, but you don't need certification. And in fact, I'm not a big fan of certification. I think, the hiring manager also know that if they need an accountant, they will hire an accountant. And they know that in their team, they have all the skills they need. Somebody like you, you're very good with data, but you also understand a little bit of, financial accounting. You understand balance sheet, income statement, cash flow. In fact, we have just one student. He came from the accounting background. He created a data model that includes, one dimension account, another dimension scenario. So by scenario, I mean, you could have actual numbers, you could have forecasts, you could have budget or plan, right? And then you have another dimension, which is time. So you could have quarter and year. And then you have another dimension, that's the business unit. You see, with that, you just know enough about financial accounting to understand chart of accounts, but you don't need the certification. But with that, you create a data model and you can use that one dashboard to replace probably 30, 50 reports based on Excel. I'm not trying to scare you away. One person with automation can take over the work of the entire team of financial planning and analysis. The traditional FP&A work requires a team. Now you can do it just by yourself if you know how to do it, right? So now the boundary between different functional areas becomes a blur. You either see an accountant trying to learn data, or a data analyst trying to learn a little bit of business accounting. Yeah. So once again, certification only when you don't have anything else to demonstrate your capability, you use certification. I'm not a big fan of certification. In fact, lots of our students, they find jobs without the certification. So next question is, do I have, oh, wait a minute. And what do I do all day? Just running queries and make reports? A lot more than that. So now you have to go through. Do you recommend some, okay, all right, same question. My pleasure. Now you will have to go through the entire process end to end, but the deliverable is much more impressive. So it's a BI service that you deliver to the business. And it's the kind of dashboard that people at all levels can interact with. The same dashboard can be used by different levels. They could all find their point of interest, their area of interest. But if you need to develop another dashboard, and that's pretty easy. You just need to make sure the data model includes enough information for that dashboard. And this entire process is very flexible. If you need another table, you just open the hood, you just connect to the source. And a lot of times refresh is as simple as the press of the button. So once you have full control over the ETL process, and then the entire process, it becomes very, very efficient. It's automated from the beginning, and it's very easy to maintain. Only when the data becomes so big and you still need the help from IT, and then you can move that part of the process into the official ETL process, and IT can build that. And you can convince IT to build that because you tell them, I already did it. Now I just need you to scale it up, right? Do I have advantage in data analytics with a STEM background? I don't think so. You probably will be better at logical thinking and programming, but I have seen enough students from the business background. They do really, really well, in data analytics and BI. Am I at a disadvantage with FABE, accounting, financial accounting, business and economics background? No. In fact, you understand the business, you understand the big picture. You also have a clear sense of purpose before you do anything. And you're also very good at communicating the impact of your work, right? Just think about something you have and the things you're missing. You just need to work harder, maybe on coding. Any questions? So 14 minutes to go. I think I can use this time to answer your question if you have any. Okay, so this is very, very typical, the 3 states of going nowhere. You know what? I'm going to use this time to really show you what you can find on our website. This is the website, and this is the part that shows the business intelligence bootcamp. So you can see at a very high level what you will learn, and go down more detailed description. And if you go here, if you click this button, you will be able to download, or you will be able to get the career guide. And it's a very important career guide, and that tells you everything about the market, about the role, about how much you will get paid, what is a typical, BI process, what are the essential skills you will need to learn. So I highly recommend that you go there and download the career guide. And then go down to some of our qualifications and credentials. So this is a past more than just courses. That's the reason why you need the bootcamp, because we, through many different trials and errors, and we find the best way to flatten the learning curve, to make your learning natural. So not too steep so you give up, or not too easy so you get bored. And it's very important for you to know that we support you right after you register and pay for the tuition and before the bootcamp starts. So we call those window pre-camp, pre-bootcamp training. So we will help you with everything just to get your computer set up and with all the data tools installed. And everybody comes with some weakness, and we will help you overcome that. And we want you to start the bootcamp already warmed up with all 5 data tools. So the pre-camp training material, and it's all project-based, it's a small little project. And we help you with Excel, with SQL, with Python, with Tableau, with Power BI. And anything you feel particularly weak at, and we will make sure we enhance your skill, so you have a good start when the bootcamp begins. And after skill building, you build the portfolio. And for those of you who want more real-time project experience, you can go on and join the real-time project. Otherwise, you go to the job mentorship. So these are just some of the sample work from the students. This is our faculty team, and all these are experts. And I have personally seen how they progress into managers and directors, and they become the experts in their field. And not only that, all of them are very, very good explainers. So they find a way to communicate the very complex concept, and they're very, very hands-on. So every lesson, the instructors will teach you by doing it, and you will just need to follow, and maybe just 30 seconds or a minute after the instructor. And most of them are available even after the class. So if you ask them questions on Slack, and they will help you. And other than that, we have 3 TAs, and they support you during class and after class. And they also have office hours. So if you are in a different time zone, by the way, we have students from Europe, from UK, from Turkey, in the current cohort, from US. 1/3 of our student body comes from the US and from Western Canada. So we will do everything to improve your learning experience. So these are the data tools you can see. You can even build a dashboard, simple one, within Excel, and it's also interactive. SQL, you have the chance to work with different database systems, MySQL, Postgre, BigQuery, on GCP, and Python, and most of the time, so you work with pandas. And this is Tableau. And Tableau doesn't exist in isolation, so a lot of times you will need to use SQL to clean the data or to reduce the size of the data, and then use Tableau to visualize the data in Power BI. Is extremely, extremely important. And the industry case project. So we have some of these projects that are really, really advanced and complex. So for instance, this portfolio workshop, this is almost like your capstone project. And you work with table on SQL Server that has 12 million rows. It's really, really big. So you start to realize performance becomes an issue, and you will need to make decisions. Maybe don't bring the table into Power BI. You create a view. So with less history, maybe, or with fewer columns, maybe you can filter them. You don't have to get all the values for one dimension. So for instance, if you have the finance data, you don't need all the plan data, maybe just the actual, or you don't need all the forecasts, maybe just actual and plan, right? So by making these decisions, then you will tune the performance of the solution to make the workflow smooth, right? So all these things, and especially when you run into problems and when you become frustrated, you will want to note down, because they become very good experience you can share with the hiring manager. And that's how you click with the hiring manager, because they have the same challenge, right? Coding interview practice. This is we use Lico. You may argue, you can do Lico yourself, but a lot of times you don't know that there are more than one solution. And sometimes even I give you the best solution, and then some people don't even understand the solution itself. And it is actually the algorithm, it's the understanding of the data structure that's important. Once you've understand the logic, you understand the data structure and the algorithm to manipulate the data structure, and coding becomes the easy part. So that's what we teach you, right? You don't have to do a lot of problems. You will do enough problems, and you repeat them. So that way you will build the muscle memory, and you will do well during the coding test. So these are the dates. These are the dates. So this year we're expanding into the US. This course is still cheap, in the US market. So it's going to get more and more popular. And Toronto, the Eastern time, you notice that we run the bootcamp from 7:30 to 10:30. And I think for most people, if you work 9 to 5, and you can still have time to go home, have dinner, and then take a break before you start the bootcamp. And once again, it's Monday through Thursday, and Friday is the study day. Most of the time is study day. And for people from the West Coast, the time is a little awkward. It's 4:30 your time to 7:30. You can still watch the recording until we have enough students from the West Coast. We still run the same cohort. So for people from both Eastern and Western, you join the same class. But this may change when we have significant number of students from the West Coast, and we will run the West Coast cohort. All right, 5 more minutes to go. Do we give out any scholarship? How do you define scholarship? If scholarship means if you do well, you can pay less. I think our CEO said we are considering that. So for instance, the Real Climb project, I think it's a perfect choice for co-op students, because most of the project are not paid, but some of the project we do get paid by the client, so we can reimburse your part of your tuition. So if that is the equivalent of the scholarship, but most students value the experience because that's the kind of experience you can put on a resume, and it's true real work experience. And if you come from other countries, and if you don't have the quote unquote Canadian experience, that's Canadian experience, and you can use that and we provide reference as well. Any question? And over time, we have built a network of alumni, past students, mentees, and mentors and instructors. And it's a very important network, and we support each other. And many of these students right now are in hiring position, and they're hiring people from us because they know the quality of our students. So this becomes really, really important when you have the connection and you compete with less people. And you also have the insider information to help you better prepare for the interview. So you can increase your chances. From Timothy, do you have payment plans? Yes, we do. We do. Do students pay the complete money before starting? Not necessarily. But if you pay it in full, you get the discount. So it could be 15%, could be 10, right? Depending on when you register. But if you go by payment plan, that's usually, I think, I don't have the exact information. You can pay off the whole tuition by a number of payments. I want you to consult with us so we can tell you the exact information. Is the program recognized in US? Once again, if you recall from the beginning, these I need to swap. So CIO is global, switch up, career comma, and course compare. These are all global, website. They rate the quality of the boot camps. So it's recognized worldwide. That's why we have students from everywhere, but primarily Canada and US. So to answer your question, yes, yeah. And that's the reason we're expanding into the US, because the US market is 10 times bigger. Shouldn't be 1/3, should be 10 times. Thank you, Michelle. In fact, today I just received, can I share with you something? Oh, maybe I shouldn't share because it actually includes the offer detail, the salary and stuff like that. It's not appropriate for me to share. So this individual, he was a police officer, and he wants to get into the data space. And I think 3 weeks after graduation, he landed a job with the mentor's help. And he wrote a very heartwarming note. He said, without the bootcamp, it's unimaginable, for me to switch a career from working as a police officer to working as a business intelligence analyst. But this kind of stories, and we just have heard so many. We have musicians, we have doctors, and so they all switch to software and data. And this shouldn't surprise you, with the hype created by ChatGPT. it's going to change the way we work big time. But don't get scared by ChatGPT, because ChatGPT or AI in general is going to replace very junior work, you know. But ChatGPT is your friend if you know how to ask the right question, and it will become your assistant. You know, it will make your job easier. So the best way is to combine human and the machine. And there are two ways to do this. You see, AI is already trying to learn the natural language, so you can ask the question in natural language. What's even better is you give the machine instruction in computer language. So if we learn the most accurate way to communicate with the machine, and you will be supercharged by computer, because humans, of course, we are creative, we're wise, you know, we have emotions, but machine has, especially if it's plugged into the cloud, it has almost unlimited memory and storage, right? There's no comparison, and we shouldn't compete on that. Compete with the machine on speed, on memory, on storage, right? So we should use that. We should leverage that to help us. So I am 55. I'm still learning. I'm pretty sure all you can learn. So it's already 1:10. I totally enjoyed the time with you. I hope you feel the same. And I highly recommend that, you know, we will try to get in touch with you through email. I highly recommend that you book one-on-one meeting with me. And this is my business, and this is also my passion. Yeah. I will, you know, spend the time and discuss the career path with you, and how we can help you make the jump. And if in the end, you know, you will not become our student, that's no problem at all. We can become friends, you know, we can become connected on LinkedIn, and we will see, you know, whatever we can help you with. Oh, by the way, this BA bootcamp is priced at, you know, 7,500. And we also have a 2,000 DA program, data analytic program. That's essentially the first week of BI program. And some of you may be interested in the short courses about the 5 data tools. So we can teach you in that. And then you can probably, you know, leverage other resources. If you're not looking for a job, you just want to upgrade yourself, that's perfectly fine. So let's talk. All right, any questions? Thank you, Nayara and Michelle and everybody. Okay, thank you very much. We'll remain connected. Thank you.